Good morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. Thanks for stopping in this morning and spending a few minutes of your time with me. There's something that I've been thinking about today because I started watching some videos on YouTube because I've been trying to take this language course and on Greek, and I ended up running across this thing. There's nothing in the universe is by chance. I'm telling you that if you go to bed at night and you speak your prayers aloud and say, higher self, universe, and all that's in it that are working for the higher good, please deliver me knowledge. Please deliver me knowledge. I want to know the knowledge. And you will literally have dreams at night that are so bizarre because you are connecting with the network. I have been astral traveling at night, but for some reason, it's either my guide or my guardian angel. I would really like to be able to, excuse me, every time I start talking about this stuff, for some reason, I get a frog in my throat. So, I want to learn more about how we tune in and tap in to be able to differentiate, because I kind of feel like the people that are in my soul group emit a certain frequency. And I always know when my brother's around because I'll hear in my head to turn on the radio. I know it sounds crazy. And I'll turn on the radio, and within a song finishing or another one starting or just coming on or playing at the time I'm turning it on will be a song by George Strait, without fail. And if I feel him, sometimes I'll get a song in my head and I'll just start singing the verse. For some reason, I've always been able to retain song lyrics and knowledge about music ever since I was a small child. And I don't know how I have this uncanny ability, but literally, there's the music from 1970 to the mid 80s. I know almost every single song and the artist, and I don't know why. I guess it's my superpower. And I could be and just from a few notes, but I can't play a lick of music. I've never tried. But the interesting thing is I come from a very musical family. I would say that my dad is the last of the Mohicans. No. Actually, my brother played the trumpet. My dad played the harmonica. But all of the women in our family all played musical instruments. They all played the guitar. All of my aunts and my grandmother and my great-grandmother, they all, and matter of fact, I have a cousin that lives in Alabama. My cousin, his name is Ron Jeffries, and he is a master guitar builder. He builds amazing guitars. So there is something spiritual about your musical ability that should never be overlooked. And I forgot what I originally started out to talk about. I was talking about how you get information from your guides, that nothing is a coincidence. Nothing's coincidence. I often have experience where I know that I'm supposed to be doing something with herbs and fruits and vegetables as a way to heal the human body. I know this. I know my brothers have brought this to me in dreams. My brothers come to me in dreams and ask me to tell his family, his wife that's still here on earth, to tell her to get involved with plants and to start healing frequency art. And so, I've tried to pass that message on. But not everybody is in the same path that you are. on your spiritual journey. Not everybody is on the same path as you. Some people may be way far ahead of you. Some people may have been born into a family. People are born into families. And some people's families that they're born into is not always a good family to be born into. There was a time during the Bronze Age when they sabotaged the pharmaceuticals. At the point of the body in early Hellenistic, pre-Hellenistic periods, I would say in the Lemurian age, because these are medicines and pharmaceuticals from Earth. Because these people, in the way that I understand it, is that they were more etherical bodies in antiquity, and way back, like in Lemurian times, because these people knew so much about the human body and how it worked, and they were able to have longevity of life. And also they used their body as a machine. Their body was a machine. They knew how to wrangle in the universe, tap into all of the electromagneticism that's in the universe and how it corresponded with the body. They knew that the vagal nerve was the tree of life, and that you could manipulate this vagal nerve to change the glands, to change the heart, to change everything. And we have a lot of symbology today that is from this era, before and during the Bronze Age, when it was hijacked and people became addicted to these medications, these pharmaceuticals that came from nature, and one of them was snake venom. Snake venom was used in ancient times for medicine. But people started taking snake venom, and they would trip out on it. They trip out on it like when people do ayahuasca. And the antibodies for longevity were taken from the glands of children in their semen, and some kind of purple, what is it called? The burning purple. The burning purple is what Dr. Ammon Hillman called it, as he's translating these ancient Greek books. And it blows your mind, man. It blows your mind. I mean, it's all fitting together. It's fitting together with my family line. And this is the personal story that I want to talk about, and how we can all look into our own family lines. And I always say this is why it's so important for everyone to do their genealogy and find out where they come from. Because if you know where you're coming from, you can know where you're going. There's always research to be done, and our families are research for us to find out about us. And when I first started doing research about my family, I thought that my family were just poor old hillbilly white trash people. I mean, seriously. My dad's family is from Alabama, and I really didn't know much more about that. And he has two family lines, and one of them, I don't know how long they were in Alabama, but they came, originally they were from Arkansas, I believe. And so there was a lot of moving back and forth and back and forth. But I had always tried to do my dad's grandmother's family line, and because I knew that her dad's name was Randolph, and I knew that her mom's name was Adams. And I knew that they had come from Kentucky or Tennessee, but I didn't know a whole lot about it because my grandmother, her mother passed away when my great-grandmother's mother passed away. So it would have been my 2 times great-grandmother, the Adams line. She had passed away when she was really young. And so I was having a hard time finding her father, but I knew that he had been married another time, I think, and he had had more children. But you have to think about the time when that was. That was in, say, 17 to 18, it was like the 1800s, So anyway, so the Adams family, I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder what Adams family, you think first, when you're messing around in your head, you think about the Addams family, da 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 da. But seriously, I was like, oh, that's interesting. We have, last name's Adams. I didn't know that. So I just kept doing the stuff, but I kept running into brick walls. I would, I never really tried to look much into the Randolph family because I really thought they were losers, to be truthful. I don't know. I mean, there was alcoholism that was in the family, I think. And there was a lot of abuse, a lot of sex abuse in the family. So this is the thing that I wanted to talk about with my family line, because when I met up with some of my cousins, because I had some surviving family members that were like really old. We're talking like close to 100 years old, still alive. My great-grandmother's sister was still alive, and she was in her 90s. And my great-grandmother's oldest daughter, who she had when she was like just has probably starting her menstrual cycle, like 14 years old, really young. She was still alive. And so we all got the family together, and my dad and we took my great aunt Rosie and my great aunt Claire, which was my dad's mom. And oh, she was the most wonderful woman. And some of her kids, and then my great aunt Rosie's daughters. But they brought some photocopies out of a book. And so I was just asking them about the family genealogy, because I had no idea. And I said, I keep trying to find my grandpa's side of the family, and I can't find anything about them. And I really hadn't looked at grandma's side. So, what do you know about grandma's side? And she said, well, I made this for you. I'm not going to let you have this book. And so, I was just getting into it at the time. I'd only been doing it. This was like when I met the family, I'd only been doing it just as a hobby for like, I don't know. I started in 2001 or 2002 on Ancestry. And, I was working between 50 and 60 hours a week at the time. And, I had a little baby. And so I was doing it as a hobby. And, I did it because my dad said that he always wanted to know what the story was with his grandpa, because he used an alias. And, he was like a notorious womanizer and a wanderer. And he wanted to know what the story was with him. So I was always looking at that family line and constantly running into brick walls. So I was having to do a lot of hands-on work. So when I went to Alabama, that's what I was going for. I was going to dig through all the courthouses. And so I ended up finding more kids. He had kids all over the place. This is after the Civil War in the 1880s. So he was rebuilding the train trestles and tracks, so he would shack up with women there. It was an alcoholic, and he would stay out in the woods and make moonshine, and then he would come home, and from what I learned from my cousins, he would sexually assault all of the girls in the house. Well, one of the daughters, which wasn't his, because my grandmother had 2 children before she was even put in a marriage with him. And I'll say she was put in a marriage with him because she hated him. She hated him. But no one ever knew it. No one ever knew it till we went back and looked with new eyes. When the kids were running through the house, and she's holding a knife to my grandpa's throat, telling him, if you ever do it again, I'll kill you. And I'm thinking, what? I would have never known my grandma to be that way, because she was always old when I knew her. She was ancient and in a nursing home, because we have this condition in our family that most people don't know about, where our bodies our enzymes don't work right. And so if you don't eat a lot of nitrates or phosphorus or meat or heavy dense proteins in your diet, then what happens is that you end up living a long time. But if you're not in balance, then what happens is you lose your mind. My grandmother, you'll have to excuse me, I'm going outside. My grandmother, she was in a nursing home. And she would escape the nursing home, and they'd find her outside pulling weeds. She'd go outside and ground to the earth. Isn't that something? My grandmother was still, she naturally wanted to ground to the earth. But, I believe that she was real spiritual. Come on, Benji, let's go outside. Come on, you want to go outside, go potty? Come on, buddy. Come on, you come outside. Come on, Benji. You are so lazy. Anyway, my grandmother ended up falling when she was outside, when she snuck out of the nursing home. And nobody really spent any time with her when she was there. They just kind of breezed through. She didn't ever remember anybody. She lost her mind. But what was interesting is that she raised my father. And my grandmother was a single mom, and this is what you call generational trauma. My grandmother was sexually abused by her father, her biological father. And I think it all has to go, and this is how trauma and religion play together. And my grandmother had a damaged root chakra, and she didn't know how to have relationships. She had an inability to have relationships. And her name was Lilly, which is strangely that I'm in this path in life right now in the time of Lilly. And my grandmother's name was Lilly. But her and her sisters, and I can't speak for all of them. I know most of them, and I would not want to talk about anybody else's trauma, but I know it happened to my grandmother. And there's no shame in that, because when you're able to talk about things without applying too many emotions to them, you can work them out. And this is my point here, is we got to go back and look at our families, because there's a lot of trauma tied up in it. Where does this come from? Where does this stuff come from? Well, my great-grandmother, she came from a family of politicians, and her political family came from Virginia, and they were very prominent, and they were the founding fathers of the country. Their last name was Randolph, and they came from Henry Randolph came here, and he brought his nephew. Now, I come from the uncle, and so all of these people like Thomas Jefferson, they would have been from my uncle's nephew's line, so it would have been my cousin's line. So it's my cousin, but they're my family. And some of them are my family, some of my family members, and I'd have to go back and see which ones, because there were so many of them. They were in politics. There were some of them that were in occult religion. They were really big in education. So they all went to the College of William and Mary. It was really important for them to study all of the Hellenistic writings, and they got a lot of flack for it, because they didn't believe in slavery, and they came over here. They were bound up in a lot of legal contracts and a lot of craziness. There are people controlling the damn world. They didn't want to live that way. That's why they wanted to have democracy, like it was in the Hellenistic times. They had democracy, the real kind, where you didn't have people that were above everybody else and that they were running. You controlled tyranny. Everybody worked for the great good. We all worked for the mother. We all planted our fruits and vegetables. You know, Thomas Jefferson was president of the country, and he had his own garden. You know, it's important to be connected to the mother. And he loved music, and he played music. Everybody in our family plays music. Everybody. And I feel like, I almost feel like when I hear violins play, that I just know the chord. Like, I feel like, you just throw me a violin and I'll just start playing right on, you know. I almost feel like my soul knows music. And, you know, I think that it comes to you. It comes to you and comes through you. When you have families that are music, they're in touch with their arts. You know, they're in touch with the mother. You know, they're growing their food. Like these beautiful watermelons that I got. Look at this. Look at this beautiful sugar baby watermelon. And you know what? It's going to taste so good. You know why? Because it has love. So I'm going to walk over here and show you these right over here that I got. Let's check the size of this passion fruit. Oh, check it out. It is looking so beautiful. But I mean, look at how nourished this plant looks here. Everything needs nourishment. Even these bugs need to. Look at all the enzymes that's happening in this watermelon. I mean, can you believe that? Look at that. Everybody has a role. Those fruit flies, they're going in there and they're doing their thing. And look at all those enzymes on there. I mean, we don't even understand a fraction of that. We don't understand a fraction of the purpose of enzymes. Just like these beans growing in this dirt will change the enzymes of that dirt. It'll change the enzymes to that dirt into something that's not depleted after it grows in it, but you can plant something else in there and it'll grow. That's why you've got the three sisters. You've got beans, squash, and corn. The natives still kept a lot of that mother knowledge, even though we had all these catastrophes, you know. We had these huge volcanoes that happened. I think they said it was 500, or maybe it was 50 AD, 50 AD, I believe. Yeah, it was 50 AD. It was volcanic eruptions off of I think you said it was Indonesia. And these eruptions were so severe that the earth was covered for three years. It was a time of terrible catastrophe. There was no sun for like 3 years because of the cloud. And they were able to discover this information from looking at tree rings, matching tree rings. Can you believe that? Is amazing. That is some amazing research. See, this is why it's important for us to learn from the past so we don't repeat the future. But you know what happened is a lot of that knowledge got lost from the Hellenistic times, and it got hijacked. You know, because the universe is magnetic. And so what you put out, you'll attract. But you've always got people that try to use bad things, do bad things for personal gain, like money and power, you know, and status, whatever. It's crazy, what things people will do. And you know, some people want to live forever. So instead of using a higher frequencies to do good things, like what they did in old times, where they used these berries on this monk chast tree for women's reproductive health. These berries, when they get ready, and look how beautiful this tree is. You can eat these leaves you can dry these leaves and make a tea, And this is for a woman. This is a woman tree. And let me tell you, this lady attracts the most amazing bumblebees and butterflies and everything. I'll spray water in this tree. And see, these berries are totally edible. And they help when you have problems with menopause. They taste like pepper. Yeah, they're peppery. Honestly, you could probably dry these and sell menopause pepper. Oh, you could crack it. You could crack them over your food and have your menopause pepper when you're getting ready to go through your cycle, you know, or if you're going through menopause. But, you know, it was used for a multiple number of reasons, supposedly, and this is, I'm sure we'll find out otherwise. I'm looking to learn, you know, it says that supposedly the reason that this is called monk's chast is because that monks would make tea out of it because it would kill their libido. And I'm thinking, well, why would monks need to be worried about killing their libido? You know? What were they doing? They needed to kill their libido. Were they drinking that snake venom? Were they microdosing the snake venom? You know, when they're in that monastery and they're young and, you know, they gotta get that holy anointed oil. They gotta, that cup, they gotta, you know, be the offering. You gotta take of that bread of life. You gotta be Christed. Well, come to find out, medical terms that Christed is it's a medical term that has to do with the snake venom and all this other stuff. It's crazy. I'm still learning about it. But it totally makes sense because, you know, leading back to my family, I know this is a lot of twists and turns, but when I went to see my family, you know, and I started learning all this stuff about my family, I learned that my part of my family that I ended up coming from, they came from the Randolphs. They went down into Alabama in the 1800s, in the early 1800s, and they started the Protestant Reformation. And they were with another family. There was quite a few families that were with them. I know one of them was a Guyton family, which is interesting because my dad, his biological father's side of the family, because he was never raised with his father. He was illegitimate, there's a lot of illegitimate kids in my family, which I also find interesting. And they're related to the Guytons, my dad's biological father, which his biological mother line came here with the Guytons in early days. So these people in this area, they all stayed together and they all married each other, which is really interesting. My grandmother, she had that red hair, that golden red hair. And you know, there's a strange blood type that runs in my family too, where they don't have these antigens on their blood. It's like a Rh negative type thing. And not everybody has it, but we all have this enzyme deficiency. So my question is that were these people that were in these family lines that had this Rh deficiency, were they used for their enzymes in antiquity? Were they used for enzymes? Were they used for medicine? And that's why they were put in the temple. They were put in the temple. They were given to the temple at an early age, like Mary, Jesus's mom. She was raised in the temple. Her mother was raised in the temple. They were chalices. The reason they were chalices is because they used their enzymes from their female parts. And I think there's more to this whole thing with the enzymes, with the Rh factor, with these ancient bloodlines, and with some of these families. And so I think that with the root trauma that plays into, you know, generational trauma, and it damages the chakra centers. So it's some things to think about. You need to look at your family line, because, you know, I looked at my family line because, you know, my dad, he had a problem with alcohol. And, you know, that's being born with bad gut bacteria. Let's look at the biological aspects of this. When you have chakra trauma and you don't deal with it, you end up having vagal nerve problems. Vagal nerve problems lead to bad gut bacteria because it affects the gut. The stomach acids, enzymes and stuff, they don't produce the same way. That's why they manipulated the vagal nerve system in antiquity and harvested the enzymes. And there's something that goes in. There's something involved in that has to do with the resonance, like cymatics, different frequencies, a pitch. And I mean, all this stuff even ties into the castratas. I think that's what they're called, the castratas in Italian Renaissance, where they took these castrated boys and they had them sing in the opera because they could get these high notes. Okay, what was so important about those high notes? Were they Christing there? Were they, you know, were they trying to Christ there? I mean, that's one thing to think about. And then, what about these architectures with these golden serpent depictions? And I'm going to do a video. I'm going to figure out how I make videos properly, because I have some stuff I want to show you guys about some places that I've been, and one place here that I think is really, really important. And there's a lot of symbolism on it, and it has to do with these old religions or the Hellenistic period. It has to do with all that. And I'm wondering if it says it's a healing temple. Nobody's allowed to go inside the tower. So anyway, there's something to be said about where I'm from. There's something to be said, because all the people that were the robber barons in the early 1800s, they were all here. They all had homes in this fancy little town that it's an incorporated little community inside of our town that's right next to the highest elevation point in the whole state of Florida and all the way up to Delaware. This mountain, they have this community there. It's all gated and guarded, and all the robber barons had houses there. They all did. Some of them still have houses there, but good luck trying to find who lives out there unless you know somebody, and then you can pull up names of who they are. It's pretty hard to find, but I did find an article on Mountain Lake where, who was it? Yeah. It was the Rockefellers. I think it was the Rockefellers. About the Rockefellers, because some of their family had a house out there. And it was a big scandal because the son, the Rockefeller son, his wife, well, he is a womanizer, and his wife was pregnant. They were at the baby shower, and one of the guests walked in the kitchen and caught him getting the nasty on with like the maid or the babysitter or something in the kitchen at the baby shower, at his wife's baby shower. I mean, you can't get any more sorry than that. Talk about no respect. Man, I tell you, this just goes to show you what doing that blood magic kind of people it makes these people. Makes them terrible people. So are they doing blood magic? Is that what it is? They're doing blood magic with enzymes? That's what they call it. They called it magic. Basically, they're just trying to live for a long time by stealing these kids' enzymes. And then, tapping into the subconscious instead of doing the work. Instead of doing the work by nature. Eating the right foods. Learning what you're supposed to be. Giving yourself to tune into your body. Not sacrificing animals and others to be healthy. That goes against the universal laws. The universal laws, they're real laws. And people that are doing terrible things right now, You know, because they're still harvesting people's enzymes every time. You know, keep encouraging people to terminate the pregnancies. You know, that's all usable material right there. That's why they use foreskins to, you know, Sandra Bullock and was on Ellen's show, and they were talking about using the foreskins of like Korean babies, micro needling into their face. I mean, seriously? Come on, man. What is wrong with you? You know, if the glands from a foreskin of a baby help save somebody's face from melting off because they're in a terrible accident, I'd say go for it. But the fact that you just want to, that there's a requirement for that material because of vanity reasons, because you're vain and you didn't take care of yourself, you're out of balance, you didn't do your work. The work that's important here is that people are working on themselves. People have to get themselves in order. When you get yourself in order, the world is going to be in order. We all care about each other again. We're going back to the time of the Lilly, when it was perfect. When people were perfect, they knew it. They lived for the universe. They lived for the mother. They didn't live for themselves. We all belong to the universe. We're all from the universe. Man. So anyway, there's just so much healing in nature. So much healing in the mother. We're all a part of nature. We're this blade of grass. We're this plant. It's all a part of us. Every mineral, every rock, everything. Energy. We're just a chemical composition. We're a recipe. We are a recipe. We're a recipe. And we all have a code. We got to unlock our code. I keep talking about we got to figure out what our code is. We're finding out what our code is. We're going to do it. So I went on for 37 minutes, way too long. But I talked about a lot of stuff in here. Family trauma, how it affects the chakra systems, how it's passed on to the children. You know, about these bloodlines. About how we got to get back to the mother so we can get ourselves well again. I'm working on it. Allergies are better today. But, you know, there's so much toxic chemicals and everything. Just using tissues to blow my nose, I got a bump on my nose. I mean, that's weird. That touching paper to your nose that should be usable on your bottom, it gives you a bump on your nose? I don't know. Is it from touching it too much, or is it from the fact that there's probably bleaching chemicals in that paper? Something to think about. Something to think about. We really got to be looking out for ourselves. And one thing I'm learning from alchemy, man, they introduced a lot of drugs through the vaginal wall, vaginal cavity, and the rectum. So, you know, you got to be really careful what you're putting in your rectum and what you're putting in your vagina. And I know that sounds gross, but how do you think that people get sick? How do you get some of these diseases? They're sexually transmitted. The vaginal walls and the anal cavity, they're, you know, if you can't take medicine through your nose or mouth or your ears and eyes, which that was another thing. They put drugs in the people's eyes back then. They dropped it in their eyes. That's why Jesus is always talking about the blind people, because he was hooked on the sauce. Jesus was hitting it hard, man. He was high all the time. He wanted to be in a constant state of euphoria. But also, the bad thing about it is that, you know, you can't be traveling around with a band of 12 kids because, you know, you're doing ritualistic type stuff, you know, very inappropriate. I mean, I'm seeing these texts being translated, these medical texts, it's really disgusting me. It's disgusting me, the twistedness that our society has become. Because, you know, if you want knowledge, you got to go to the source. You got to go to the oldest stuff that's available. And you got to read. Folks, we got to read. We got to learn. Learning. You know, this is why we have the Constitution of our United States and the Declaration of Independence. Where do you think that my family just didn't make all that up? They're no geniuses. They were no genius people. They just really liked learning. They really liked to learn, and they really loved helping people. And you know, that's still in my family. Ask any people that knew my brothers that passed away very early in life. Before 52 and before 55. My brothers were just full of light. And everyone loved them. They were people. They cared about people. They stopped and helped people on the side of the road. My dad would stop and help strangers on the side of the road. And people would say, "You can't do that. You're going to get yourself killed." My dad would never leave somebody stranded on the side of the road. You know, we were raised to be helpers. We were raised to be helpers. But you got to have good intentions. You can't, you know, helpers, being raised up to be helpers, you can sometimes wander into the wrong path of people that are takers, you know, that are sickos. So I guess one thing that I would say that had to be learned from me, coming from my traumatic experiences and my traumas that I've inherited from family, is to be very careful with your children. Don't let people around your kids. And be very careful of people that are in your family. You have to know the true core of people. And you have to know the people in your family unit to the core. That's why it's so important to have relationships. Everybody knows who, like, they call it the creepy uncle, but everybody knows, like, who the creepy person is in the family, and the kids stay away from that person, right? You don't let your kids around some sick mother that's going to hurt your kids, you know? You don't want to hurt your kids because you're damaging their vagal nerve. You're damaging their body. You're damaging for life. You'll damage them for life if they do not know what to do to help themselves, to get themselves back. And it requires some work. It requires a lot of work. And it's energy work. It's, you know, nutritional work. And it's a lot of knowledge, because you have to gain knowledge. And when you gain knowledge, you gain power, because you're able to look at things more objectively and less emotionally, because the more you know, the less reactive you are, you know, because you understand reasons, you understand the bigger picture, you understand what's happening, you understand what could have happened. You know, you have more objectives. So thanks for spending 43 minutes of your day with me. This was a super long video. It had a lot in it. I want to look more into this Marian worship and Anne worship, Saint Anne. You know, there's a lot to be said about this stuff. How they all tie in, how they got misconstrued. You know, we have a lot of old places here that are devoted to saints. And there's still some monuments, and I did some videos of it. So I'm looking at the symbol of this heart that has a cut through it and the blood seeping out, and it has like a knife pierced in it, I think it is. I'm trying to find out what the real meaning is of that symbol. It's got to mean something. It has something to do with the body. Old symbol. Anyway, I challenge you today. Go outside, put your feet in the grass, set your intentions. Say thank you to Mother Earth for this beautiful day. It is absolutely gorgeous today. And I always encourage anyone to go to the library, get some books and start reading. Study, learn. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to share. I'm here for the universe. I work for the universe. And so we can all learn together. So I challenge you to learn. Take a book outside. Put your feet in the grass and read. You know, and eat something really healthy today. Drink lots of water. And, of course, when you come, I'll be here because we're living in the past, present, and the future all at the same time. So thanks for watching Sacred Enzyme.